Well, think of your walk with God like taking a walk. All right, I know, just you're walking, okay? But you're in between where you started and where you're going to. And then it starts to rain. Now, the rain can signify the pain, the suffering, the trials, and the tribulations. And you find yourself getting mad at God because you feel like He didn't prepare you, because you're having to walk through the rain. And you can't really go back because it's the same distance to get back as it's the same distance to go forward, in a sense, right? Like there is no point. You're stuck in the middle. You're having to continue to walk, and your walk is just enduring. It's just living another day. So the rain comes. You're like, God, why didn't you tell me to be prepared? Why didn't you have me wear like clothing that didn't absorb this so I don't have to walk around with heavy wet clothes? Like, why have you allowed this to happen? How come you didn't tell me to bring an umbrella, right? And we're thinking that God should prepare us in the way that we have seen others be prepared. But the way in which others have been prepared and the way in which we seem to prepare ourselves, and what's perpetuated, especially in America, is avoiding discomfort, avoiding pain, avoiding suffering. But God seems to be the one that steers you into suffering, steers you into discomfort. Like, in order for the splinter to be dug out of your finger, it requires pain to dig into that skin to pull it out, right? So it actually requires more pain to actually heal. So something has to be addressed. I've had many instances where I'm on my walk with God and I'm like, you set me up, you motherfucker. And I'm mad. You set me up, but I got no one else. I'm out here and I can't even call an Uber because they won't let me in the car because I'm wet. If I wasn't wet, I could at least, there's no way I can do it for myself. I can't get to the destination. I'm stuck in the rain. I'm caught in the rain. And I'm looking at God and I'm like, how come He didn't prepare me like this? And my preconceived notions about how I'm thinking He's supposed to father me brings up these father wounds that have been in me, where I felt like I've been neglected and forsaken. I'm like, why are you steering me into the same pain that I'm trying to get away from? He's like, because you're walking around with the splinter. Because you're walking around and it hurts and you think that it's just going to callous over. But what I want to do is I want to dig into the skin, which is going to cause more pain, but it will eventually bring relief. But I want to show you that I don't just steer you into pain and suffering, but I am with you in pain and suffering. He doesn't seem to be the God, his M.O., where He's constantly rescuing us, saving us from discomfort. But you find Him, it seems to be His trademark, the one who is with you in these things. And then you have little pockets of joy on these dark and rainy days where you're caught in the rain. Because there seems to be a point of no return when you were walking and it starts to rain. Meaning you can't get to a place to be dry, to salvage like your dryness, right? There's like a percentage, there's like a phone battery percentage of there's a percentage of how much you were dry, and you're like, oh man, I got to get to, otherwise I'm going to be really, really wet, right? We're taught to not get fully wet. We don't want to be fully wet. That's uncomfortable. We don't want to have these heavy wet clothes. But there's a point of no return. And once you become fully wet, you can't be any more wet than wet. And that is where the joy kicks in. And you find yourself jumping into puddles of water and splashing up. And it doesn't matter because you're already wet. So you're free from all of it. This is, I believe, the relationship with God. He's like, you will find me in your discomfort, and then I will change your discomfort into something else. You see, from the darkness, you think this is the place that you're not supposed to go because you don't know that I'm the one that's going to lead you through and out of it. What makes the journey so difficult and so costly with God is we do not know when we are in the middle of it that He will come through. But faith is increasing that He must come through. And there, I believe there's this intuitive knowing that He will come through, but we're still very much wrestling with that because we have yet to see Him come through. Because it's requiring the journey to find that, for that to be produced in us, this knowing that then ceases the doubts and the fears. But in the interim, the doubts and the fears and the spiritual warfare and the trials and the tribulations come, right? And all of these things start to dig up the pain of you that you have felt forsaken, the pain that you felt like you've been let down, the pain you're like, God, why are you doing this? I can't trust you. I'm trying to trust you, but it's like you're leading me into situations where I trust you less. And I feel like he's like, give up you trying to trust me. Surrender to me being the trust builder. You're going to get wet. You're going to feel uncomfortable. But there will be a point of no return where you stop caring about how wet you are and where you're supposed to get to. And you will find me with you in the rain. And I have presented before you puddles to jump in. And you will remember what it's like to be a kid. Before the world told you, before becoming an adult became trying to avoid discomfort. It seems to be the surrendering to life is the surrender to suffering. But it's not understanding that suffering that brings about another form of suffering. So you find God in that, and he doesn't tell you what it's all about right away. Like, I'm seeing how God has set me up in the past to steer into places that are painful, right? To be caught in the rain without an umbrella, to be too wet to call an Uber, to just have to walk through it. This is it. This actually happened to me. And I'm like, I get to a certain point where I'm so wet that I don't care anymore. I'm just like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep walking. And you find this resilience in you. And you find this strength in you. And you find something in you that you wouldn't have found unless you got uncomfortable. Right? If God were to show me what I had to go through, I don't know if I would want to go through it. And still, I don't want to go through it. But it's like he doesn't show you. Instead, you take it one day at a time. Because I think it would be too overwhelming if he showed you everything you had to go through. That's why he breaks it up into days. And each day has a grace on it. And the grace supersedes the pain and the trouble that you were going to go through. And the grace is going to give you something so much more for your trouble. And in the grace, you will receive a measure for what you have lost. But that's what it has felt like for me. Being caught in the rain, but I still have to keep walking. And there's no one to call. And there's only one place that I have to get to. And I'm on foot. Right? People won't take me in. It's not, all the doors are shut. I have to keep walking. This isolation period with God. And I'm stewing over this stuff until it spills out of me, right? I'm just like, God, why did you let this happen? Why did you let this happen? Why have you steered me into the most uncomfortable places? Why have you brought up this father wound of being forsaken if you say that you're not going to be the one to forsake me? He's like, because you've been trying to cover up your own pain. You've been trying to make sure that that splinter is calloused over, but it still hurts you. You walk with the limp. Right? You're trying to cover it up. You feel responsible for it. He's like, but I have to dig it out. And I'm going to do it my way. And it's going to hurt, but you're going to find that I'm with you in the hurt. That being not forsaken goes so much more beyond than what you're able to comprehend. We think that we have to behave to not be forsaken, to follow the rules to not be forsaken. All of these things, this place of unbelief that is in us, that requires us to be caught in the rain, to get the clothes that are so wet that you can't get any more wet than that. It's like you find freedom at the bottom because you're like, well, this is the bottom. There is no bottom more than this bottom. So he will either lift me up or he will not. But the thing that costs the whole thing, right? The thing that makes it worth it, the thing that actually brings this opportunity for risk and reward is the risk. It's like, I don't know if he's going to come through for me. But he has set me up and he has led me into a place where now I have to keep walking regardless. No one is going to come pick me up. My clothes are too wet, right? But you get so wet that you can't be any more wet than that. And I think something happens. You just surrender. You just let go, right? He leads you to a place where you let go and you open up more freely. You say, I don't understand your ways, but I will trust you. You have been with me in this pain and this suffering. You have led me in and through these places. You will come to know of him because he will be the trust builder. You surrender that over to him. He's like, I will be the one. I will be the one that leads you. I will be the one who teaches you. I will be the one who is with you. I will be the one that makes it make sense to you. I will be the one. Because we're not going to understand. I'm telling you, he's going to steer you into places that hurt to bring up the hurt. And then he will say, give it to me and I will heal you. But to heal is to address where you've been hurt. So that has to come up. The splinter has to come up. And the splinter coming up is going to